Hey everyone, and welcome to this Tekla Structures training video. In this video we're working on Tekla Structures 2021 Service Pack 6, and we are going to do macro welding and also the mechanics within macro. I'm going to show in the video how to create different types of assembly, how you can create it with welding and create assemblies, and I'll explain everything regarding to create an assembly and actually welding it. So let's start off by first going to draw in a beam at two different positions, as you can see. So now we have a item. Currently it's not set as an assembly, because if you choose your assembly selection, it will be two separate parts. Now as soon as I choose the welding, what happens is you can either choose, if you press your shift and the welding function, it will pop up settings for it, and you can set up your item on how it should be welded. Now what this means is it's all round welded. It's a workshop weld. You can say it can be site or workshop, doesn't really matter. And you can press where you want to place the welding. Should it be continuous? Should it be in a chain intermediate or staggered intermediate, which is stitch welding? You can say connect as a secondary part or a sub-assembly. Placement, do you wish to place it? You can just keep all this as is. Now the prefixes, you can add whatever you wish to. But now let's start off by saying that we have a 6 fillet weld on both ends. So at the 0 angle, you want it to be contour or none or whatever you want to use. The finish, what type, grind, machine, etc. And you can set up, there's a pitch and the lengths you can actually set up, and the type of weld that is used. Now if I use all of this, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to choose, first you have to choose always your main member in your drawing. So this will be my main member and the part that's welded to it. Right, now what will happen is if I double click on a background and I change the display from my welds to the exact no weld mark, for instance, and I modify and apply, you'll now notice that it will provide you with where it will be welded. Now currently it's not working properly because I just simply added an item, I pressed it in, and that's it. I didn't really create a cut of it and to remove. So currently the Tekla is in an error item. So I can choose this and delete it, and the weld will go away. So again, if I choose my assembly, it will be two different parts again. So now let's just put in a normal end plate. Now if you put in a normal end plate, you'll now notice how it actually welds on the plate on both parts, as you can see right here. So the weld will go down straight. Originally it will go in the inside as well, and back up and in the inside as well. So currently it's not quite correct, but this will do for now. So this is how the weld will look like. Now if I choose my assembly selection, you'll notice that it will select the plate along with it, because it's part of the same assembly now. So now I create drawings. So let's go ahead now. I'm going to create a drawing now just to show you what will happen. So before we do that, or yeah, let's all just do it. So drawings, we're going to perform numbering, and I'm going to go ahead and say drawing, and we're going to create auto drawings from Sable C landscape, GW landscape only, and it's going to create drawings for me. So now if I draw this over, notice this is all the drawings. Now there's my assembly drawing that I wish to look at. So this is the one with the end plate. As you can see, we have the end plate. Now what will happen is if I choose and I add another item, so let's go ahead and add another item. So I'm going to say steel. I'm going to choose my contour plate function, and I'm going to place it at the end of the beam, and we're just going to say go to the front. There we go. And I'm going to choose a function weld. Now if I welded that together and we say redraw, currently let's see if it is selected. Yes, so now it is part of the main assembly part, as you can see. So now it's selected as part of the main assembly. So we can see that the plate is now welded to it. Now if I perform numbering again, I open my docket manager, it will say part is modified. So what it did is it added the plate to the assembly. As you can see, there's the plate. This is where it gets a bit tricky, where the macro can actually, especially if you've done a project and you accidentally do this, it can actually mess up your drawings. If I go back to my steel of the contour plate, for instance, right now, I just need to add my snaps on and place it, for instance, right over here. I'm going to place it over here. There we go, and over here. So what will happen now? I'm going to show you what happens if you do it incorrectly. So now, we know that this is the main part. So if I choose this one first, make this my main part, and I weld it to this item, what happens if I choose this one first is now this part will become the main part. So if I open my docket manager, immediately it will tell me that my items was decreased. And if I update it, it will say all parts are deleted. If you open it, it will have a text usually saying all parts deleted, but there you go. So now, as you can see, this is what happens. So now I destroy the drawing. And if I open my docket manager, it's currently A2. I have to recreate the drawings. So I have to perform the numbering again. Now you'll see that it is now removed and a new item is now created. As you can see, there we go. So if I open this item now, this is what will happen. So now this plate is considered to be the main part. So this is where you need to be careful once you do your detailing or your modeling, for instance. You need to choose the correct item, because this can destroy your entire drawing. So always make sure you ever choose the main part. But now I'm going to show you what happens on the following item. So let's say we're going to create a brand new item. I'm just going to create a brand new item here on the side. Let's put it over here. And we're going to put in, again, the steel contour plate function. I'm going to place it in right over here. And we move it to the front, or the back in this case. There we go. And we welded this item. So now, again, this is my main part. But just take note that you can add parts as you draw along. You can also remove items. I'm going to show you what happens. So if we create a brand new assembly, I'm just going to create another item. There we go. And I'm just going to weld it. So now we've created a brand new item, and I'm going to perform numbering, and let's create the drawings once more. So what's going to happen now is I'm going to show you what happens is basically I created assembly, and if I wish to remove this item, it won't delete the drawing. So this is the current item. If I open it up, A3, you'll see the plate and the plate. So let's remove this plate in the middle. So if I choose to remove this plate and I perform the numbering once more, you'll see that it only says that the part was modified. And if I open it up, it now removes the plate and it just have the one plate. So you need to be careful. You usually have to choose correct. You can even weld items. So let's do this. If I choose my plate function, now this, just take note of the following. This is still a bit risky, but it will work 90% of the time if you do it correctly. So if I choose the weld function, I choose now a secondary item and I weld it to the secondary item. What happens is originally we have our welded items right here with no weld marks, etc. So what will happen is usually it will now create a weird welding position. Now, nonetheless, let's start off by going to our docket manager once more. So let's perform update. I'm going to open up the drawing now. If you see, now we created, and it actually created like it should be. So it didn't delete the drawing as with the previous one. So it all depends on what you choose. You can choose a secondary and a secondary to create the assembly, but never choose your secondary first and then the main part, for it will completely delete your drawing and everything in it. You have to then start over with your detailing on that item. So this is the one way of creating a assembly for your assembly drawings. Another method will be the following one. So let's say we want to create, again, I'm going to create a brand new drawing. So I'm going to choose this beam right here. Yeah, let's keep it there. So let's put in a plate. So now we have a plate piece right here, but it's not as assembly drawing. So one thing that you can do is you can either choose the item and say assembly, and you say add to an assembly, and you can choose the assembly that you want to add it to. Once you've done that and you've performed the numbering, you can open up your docket manager and we can now create a brand new drawing. So now you can see that there's A4, which is this plate that was placed right here on this part right here, as you can see. And this way you can actually add and remove items from your assembly. So let's start off by just doing the following. We're going to choose again the control plate function. There we go. And again, we can say assembly. We can say add to assembly and choose the assembly. So again, if you perform the numbering and you open your docket manager, it would have modified and it would have added the plate now in the middle. So remove this, you can either then, you have to say again, remove the item from your assembly, because you can't delete because it didn't have a weld. So you can then choose assembly and say remove from assembly. And once you've done that, and again, you perform the numbering, the part will be modified. And if you open it up, you'll only have the one plate on the left-hand side. So this is one way of creating an assembly drawing as well. Now you can even choose which part you want to make the assembly. So you can say set as main part of your assembly, and you can even say show assembly, so it will show you everything that is placed on it. So these are two methods of creating an assembly for your assembly drawings. Now the last and final part is a bit of a tricky one. This one is not really used unless you truly want to create something that's unique, that you won't be able to do so otherwise on your Tekla structures. An example of this is you can actually create the following on your Tekla. However, it's a bit of a drag as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a 30 rod, and we're just going to make it about 500 long, not even that long. Let's just make it 100 long, and I'm going to place it right over here. Now, the idea of this will be to create, let me move it over here. The idea is to create it at a sharp point right over here. Now, I have one of two ways of creating that sharp point. I'm going to show you how to do this. One way of creating a sharp point is to actually go to your, you can either choose your circle or sections, and you can choose, you can work from this one, or you can work from your ELD. Now the ELD is a perfect one to use. So let's start off. The first diameter should be, for instance, 20, or rather let's make it 25 for instance. Now B1 is this item right here, and we want B2. Again, this, what happens is this item will be a solid piece. So you have to create two of them, subtract the two, and subtract that one from this one. So this is a very long method. What I'm going to do is I'm going to work rather with what we have right here. So I'm going to go with also 20, and we're going to make this 10 by 10, and we're going to apply this and place it right over here and say keep the duplicates. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this one up all the way here, and we're going to shorten it by saying this should be, let's say 20 long. Right, so now we have a 20, the rod is 30, I forgot, so that's where I am currently in the wrong. So we have to say 30 by 30, and we keep it at 10. So now we have what's called a sharp point. But how do you create this item to be one solid unit? So what people would do usually is they would go to your edit bar, and where you have add material, you can say attach a part and choose the two parts, and middle button to finish it. If I redraw it, we can just take out the cuts. There we go. And if I choose it, it will be selected as a single item. So now if I perform numbering, let's do that just quickly. We're going to say perform numbering, and we're going to create the drawings now. and a brand new item is now placed right over here. So if I say select item, and you'll notice that it selects the entire item, and if I choose the by parts function, it will only be one item. So now this is a single part drawing. So this way you can create your own unique item. So now it will pick up as a rod of 30 at the length of 120, and not a rod of the rod of 30 that's actually 100 long, and then the EDP or the ERD, whatever we used, at the front and the length of that. So it will pick it up as one item. So this is ideally used when you have to create a unique item and you don't want to go through the entire tedious method of using part cut or plug cut or anything to create a unique item. So these are the three ways of working with your different types of creating assembly drawings and creating brand new items. So just take it to mind that you should always choose your main part as you start your welding to use your macro correctly.